All right. I think we're live. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Hang on a second here. Let me see if I can figure something out on my microphone. What's going on here? Am I coming through? Somebody let me know. We'll see. All right. I don't know if anybody can hear me or not. I'm going to start. And if you guys can't hear me, you let me know. So, all right, you hear me. Okay, good. We're good to go then. So, all right. We'll get the normal disclaimers we do every week out of the way. This is a weekly live broadcast. Generally Thursday nights, 7 o'clock Central. This is where I'm at. Weekly live broadcast. Don't have any topic planned out. This is just a time for me to interact with you guys. I do my best to respond to all the comments that come in. If you're talking to me, if you're talking to each other, I kind of skip over those, and that's fine. I don't mind. It doesn't bother me. If you want to post a link to another YouTube channel in here, that's fine too. I don't care. We're not in competition with other YouTube channels. It's fine. I don't care. We don't argue with each other. Well, you can have friendly debates, but we don't want to get hateful. We want to keep it family friendly. We've got a lot of different people in here from different backgrounds. So don't cuss at anybody. Don't call them names. Don't be hateful with anybody, any of those kinds of things. And we should all get along, and that'll be good. All right, let's get to it. So who's that? Katrina. Good to see you, Katrina. Jammin' Mike says, I just got back from feeding and watering rabbits. Make sure the day, I got to move this down. There we go. That's better. Just got back from feeding and watering and making sure that all 13-day-old rabbits was back in the nest box before I came back in. Doesn't mean they won't get out again. Yeah, 13 days old, they're in and out of the nest box all the time. They have a hard time getting back in, but yeah, 13 days old, they tend to be out of the nest box a lot. Usually I find, though, whenever you put them back in the nest box at 13 days, roughly about that time, 10 to 13 days, they usually will end up staying there for the night, and they're okay. But you might have to check on them again once more before the end of the night. Katrina says, I just got meat rabbits, and I'm wanting to know when I should start breeding them. They are proven, waiting for it to cool down some. Yeah, I don't know what your climate is where you live, but excuse me. But, really anytime you should be able to start breeding them. Here in Southwest Missouri, we are starting to get into the cooler weather. It's going to get down to 47 tonight, I think. Or maybe it got down to 47 last night. Either way, it's gotten pretty chilly the last couple of nights. We're going to be back up in the 90s in a day or two, but it's starting to cool off. So, I would feel comfortable going ahead and breeding rabbits now if you wanted to. Or what I'm going to do is probably wait until first, second week of October, somewhere right around in there to go ahead and start breeding. But, it's up to you. If you want to start breeding them now, I don't know, again, what your climate is. I try to do it whenever I know the cooler weather's coming and it's not going to be so hot. So if I breed her today, what is today? The 23rd of September. If I breed her today, in 2 weeks, we're going to be into the October. And usually our October weather's pretty mild. We're not getting the high 90s and the humidity and all those kinds of things with it. So I would feel comfortable going ahead and doing it now. All right. Where at? Jammin' Mike says, I think our 4 females that bred last month is 4 months old, and we bred the other female again earlier this month, and pretty sure she is bred. Well, good luck. I hope that works. 4 months old is a little bit young. You may or might not have success with that, but hey, good luck with it. I hope it does work out. Hey, is that Mayor Mulroney? Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Jammin' Mike says, tours are meat. Tours are meat, but I'm going to be selling some tour. I think that's probably a typo. I don't know if you mean 2 of them are meat rabbits, but you're going to be selling some for pets. And this was the rabbit's first litter. Okay, well, good. Hopefully that works out. Hello to you, Toasted. Good to see you. Let's see. We got Helen from Australia. Says it's a beautiful spring day, but we could use some rain here in Brisbane, I think is how that's pronounced. Hopefully I got it right, but I've heard of it, so I think I pronounced it right. Yeah, we had some rain the other night. A pretty decent storm moved through, actually. But we're going into wintertime here. We're going into fall and wintertime. Our official first day of fall was yesterday. So, yeah, different seasons here. Kind of weird. All right, Jasmine says, hello, everyone. Looking forward to tonight's live with Chris. Well, thanks for joining. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it, too. Hey, there's C. Yonk from Chandler, Texas. Good to see you. Sillamore. Hello from Central Arkansas. Oh, no, I scrolled too far. Lost track. There we go. Good evening, Verna. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Who's that? Jasmine from Crane, Missouri. I know exactly where Crane is. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Hello to Robert. And we got a bunch of people telling me they can hear me. Thank you. Whiskey Tango Farms is here. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining. We got Gary B. Good evening to you. Brady. Brady. Good evening. Let's see. I hope everything's going well with your neck of the woods. It is going well, just as busy as ever. Was on vacation last week and then back to work this week. So busy, but busy's not a bad thing. So it's been good. Verna says only moderators can post in live chat. I'm not sure what that means. You're telling me that only moderators can post? It doesn't seem to be that way. Everybody seems to be posting. I'm not sure if there's something I need to do. Let me know. I'll fix it. But I see everybody's posts, so I think we're working okay. Who's that? Linda from California. Thanks for joining. Michael says, good night. Have not seen you in a while due to internet problems. Well, I'm glad you got your internet problems fixed, not just so you can join the live broadcast, but anymore living without internet's kind of a pain. It's kind of funny how, I grew up without internet. It wasn't a big deal, but now that I've had internet, it's almost a necessity. I almost have to have it. Dylan says, do you know anything about chuckers? Not really, not a whole lot. So I don't know that I can answer any questions about that, but yep, everything is good. Michael R., thank you. Ro S., thanks for joining. Toasted says, hey, how you doing? I'm doing well, thank you. Hopefully you are too. Jimmy Weaver says, cricket. I don't know what that means. Bradley says, I just had my first Kindle of Flemish Giants. Congratulations on that. Hopefully they're all doing well. Hey, Jesse, good to see you. Let's see who's that. Student Axel Jansen says, what do you do in the wintertime with your rabbits? Water freezing. Change it out a lot. That's it. I use rubber Crocs. Oh, they're about that deep. You may have seen them in a recent video because my watering system broke and I haven't fixed it. So I use those, and I just go out and change it out twice a day, or a little more if you can, but twice a day is plenty. I like the rubber ones because whenever they freeze, I can just turn them over. And I don't fill them all the way up with water. I just fill them a little bit up with water. The rabbits will come to it and drink as much as they want as soon as I put water in there. When it freezes, I can just turn it over, stomp on it, knock the ice out, put more water in it. So what I'll do in the morning usually is knock all the ice out of it. I'll fill it up, halfway. Say it's that halfway with water. Rabbits will get their drink, whatever they want out of it. If it's frozen when I come back in the afternoon, I just pour water on top of that ice, let them get their drink out of that. Sometimes I'll go out and do it again before bedtime or something, but usually twice a day is plenty. And then the next morning, start all over, knock all the ice out, fill it up a little bit, and just work that way. I have an old a milk jug that I use. I just fill it up at the sink with water, and I take it out and pour water in each one of their bowls. That's what I do. So it's not that big of a deal. It works out pretty well. It's pretty easy to do. Robert says, good timing. Just finished my bi-yearly cleaning of the chicken coop. 10 large wheelbarrowfuls of to the compost pile. Wow, that sounds like a chore. So glad you got it done. Jeff from Central Missouri, good to see you. Jasmine says, I'm really proud of myself. We processed our largest batch of quail just a few minutes ago, about 30, all from my own original quail eggs. Fantastic. That is something to be proud of. Congratulations and well done. All right. Todd says, hey, Chris from Crete, Illinois, I think it is. Have you noticed if your rabbit grow outs take longer to get to size depending on litter size? I don't know if I've noticed any correlation between litter size and, grow outs taking longer to get to size. Now, I have noticed sometimes with older rabbits, the babies do tend to take a little bit longer to get to size, and they also tend to have smaller litters when they get older. I don't think that there's any correlation between the litter size and how long it takes them to get to. I think it just has to do with the age of the rabbit. When she's starting to age out, I start noticing some issues with litter size and grow out rates and some of those kinds of things. All right, Lorraine from North Florida, good to see you. Thanks for joining. And Katrina's saying thanks. I don't know if that's to me or somebody else answered, but either way, you're welcome. Marius, hello, Chris and everyone from South Africa. Says bullions, quail. I think it's bullions. Maybe that's a French word. I don't know how to pronounce. But either way, Quail Farming says public holiday tomorrow, so I can catch your live show this morning. It's 2 a.m. Oh my goodness, you stayed up later, got up early, but either way, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it, and I hope I didn't pronounce your last name too badly. All right, Lorraine, cool day here. Yeah, it was nice and cool here too. It was only like 75, I think. Where are we at here? Barrel Racer, when can I breed my buck? He is 3 months old. Usually about 6 months old is about what time you want to start breeding them. Depends on the rabbit. I mean, it depends on the breed. If they're a giant breed like a Flemish Giant, it's going to take them bucks probably 10 months, 11 months, somewhere right around in there. You might be able to breed him if he's a regular, like a New Zealand or something like, a large rabbit, but not a giant. You might be able to get him bred at like 5 months, but 6 months is the general idea on when rabbits are ready to breed. Bucks tend to be ready to breed a little bit earlier than does. If he's one of the pet breeds, the small ones, sometimes they're ready to breed at 3 months or 4 months old. But my guess is he's probably a meat rabbit, a standard meat rabbit, so you're probably looking at 5-6 months old. Student Axel Jansen, what time of year do you breed rabbits? I breed them in the wintertime. It gets too hot here in the summertime for them. I don't, they got big fur coats on. When it's up over 80 degrees on a consistent basis, I don't like to breed them. They're just uncomfortable and miserable as it is. And I've had problems when I've tried to breed and it gets hot, losing babies in the nest box because it's hot. Never have any issues losing babies in the nest box in the wintertime, regardless of how cold it gets. Now, I am in Southwest Missouri, so we don't get the harshest winters ever. But we do get down below freezing. We stay there for extended periods of time, down in the teens and even down to 0 or below 0 sometimes Fahrenheit. And I don't have any problems with rabbits, baby rabbits in the wintertime. So I breed in the winter, the fall and the winter, up into early spring, and that's about it. All right, we got a couple of comments with people talking to themselves. Hey, there's a Katernik's Corner here. It says, hello, Chris. Hope your vacation was good. Next time you're in Florida, you need to stop by. I do. Thank you, Terry. I actually thought about it because on the way back, we went through Pensacola, and it seems like I think you're in Pensacola. I couldn't remember. But we were kind of in a hurry. I didn't have time. I mean, it's a 13-and-a-half-hour drive. So I was kind of in a hurry to get home. I didn't really have time to stop or anything like that. But, yeah, I need to make a trip down there and hang out. Where are we at here? Barrel Racer says, is that old enough? Is what old enough? Oh, the 3 months old. Okay, I think I got that question answered. And where was that? Jamin Mike says I meant ours. It was a typo. I've forgotten what we were talking about. Oh, yeah, I do. Said tours. You meant ours. Okay, that makes sense. I figured it was a typo. I figured it out. All right, Verna is talking to somebody else. Ed Got Bates here says hello to me, to Verna, and to Terry and Whiskey Tango Farms. There we go. Get that out right. Hello to you too, Ed. Michelle says, greetings, everyone, from St. Kitts in the Caribbean. Oh, I'm jealous. I would like to go there. Katrina says, I'll be doing my first quail harvest on Sunday. Hatched from my Shire eggs. I think I have 23 extra males to go in the freezer camp. Going to try out the drill attachment plucker. Let us know how it works. I'm kind of curious on that. I can't imagine trying to pluck a quail. They just seem like their skin would be too thin and it would just destroy them. But I may be wrong. I'd like to know. All right. Toasted says, we had a bird we needed to call. Had bumblefoot. We looked in the feet after there was no kernel, but this big ball of gooey flesh, whitish pink, very watery, scab wound wouldn't heal. Thoughts? Probably a staph infection of some kind is my best guess. But I mean, it could be caused by anything. There probably was something in there at one time, whether it, you got it out or not. Hard to say. There's just so many different things that can happen. My guess would be some kind of staph infection. It's possible to treat those things, but how do I say this? Culling is probably not the worst idea. Just go ahead and take it. It's kind of difficult to treat those things on a regular basis. You're going to need antibiotics and all those kinds of things. And you can't treat it with an antibiotic ointment. Maybe that will take care of it, but chances are it's just going to get worse and better. And it's going to be a kind of a long haul. I'm sorry that you had to deal with that, but it's just part of raising animals, unfortunately. Grafted Branch says, my hutch is half built now and incubator has arrived. Eggs coming in a few weeks. I'm excited to be here tonight. Well, hey, we're excited to have you here. Good luck. I hope everything works out. Your hatch is half built. You got plenty of time to get it built. You got your new incubator. So I think you're all set up. Good luck with it. I hope it all works out well. Paleo Greenbird says, I think I'm overcooking my quail. My wife always says that it's tough. Do you have any tips for making the quail tender? I sear and then bake. Yeah, quail's always going to be a little bit tough in a sense because it's such a lean meat. It's not going to be super tender like a chicken thigh or something like that. It's going to be closer to like chicken breast. To me, chicken breast is always a little bit on the dry side. So maybe, I don't know for sure, but maybe what she's referring to is the dryness of it as opposed to it being tough. So, to fix that, you might try avoiding pan searing them first. Bake them, wrap them with some bacon, add some kind of fat to them, drench them with butter, something like that is going to help a little bit with that. Those are my best advice for that. One of the recipes I really like is to cut the breast meat off the bone. So you end up with 2 breast halves and stuff them with something, cheddar cheese, blue cheese, whatever you like. I personally like blue cheese, and wrap them with bacon and then brush them down with red hot and bake them until the bacon is done. And they don't turn out too tough there. They're still going to be a little bit dry because they're such a lean meat. I mean, it's just what you're going to run into with that. But those are my best suggestions for that. Somebody else might have a good suggestion in here too. I mean, sometimes there's lots of people out there that are way better cooks than me, and they may find a way to tender it up a little bit more. Ron says, my does won't hold still and lift for the buck. He is 8-time. They are first time. Harrison, Arkansas. Yeah, that's a pretty common issue, actually. Really common, especially with first time does. They won't hold still. They'll run around the cage. They'll tuck their butt down in a corner of the cage or something like that. So it happens all the time. It's one of the most common questions we get. So here's what I would do with that. Try just persistence. A lot of times will fix that issue. So you put the doe in with the buck. First of all, always take the doe to the buck. Don't ever take the buck to the doe. But once we got that figured out, take the doe to the buck's cage, put him in the cage, or put her in the cage. Give her 10, 15 minutes, something like that. And if there is not a successful breeding, just take her out, put her back in her cage, and then try again that evening. Do the same thing that evening, the same thing the next morning, the same thing the next evening. Usually after about 4 or 5 tries, somewhere right around in there, she'll go ahead and lift for the buck. Now, if she's really stubborn, there is another trick that people swear by that I don't know why it would work, but people swear it does. So there's got to be something to it. You could put her in a pet carrier, put her in the car, drive her around the block a couple of times, bring her back, put her in the buck's cage. Don't know why that would work, but people swear by it. If nothing else works, then one thing you may have to do is you may have to stick your hand in there, stop her from running around, and just kind of, just stop her, and then let the buck try to mount. A lot of times they'll go ahead and do that. You can try to force breed, which would be like holding the doe, putting your hand underneath and lifting her back end up for the buck to mount. It's a little tricky. It always seems a little traumatic to me. I don't really like to do that, but it is something you can do. But I try all those other things first and see how that works. Most of the time, like persistence will go ahead and get that done. It's incredibly frustrating. I've been there. I know exactly what you're talking about. But usually after you get them bred once, they're going to be a little bit more willing to do that in the future. And if they're incredibly hard to breed, you said my does, so that means it makes me think multiples of them. You might look at getting another rabbit, though. You might just trade them out for another doe. Life's so much easier when you have a doe that's just willing to breed. That you put her in there and she just lifts for the buck right away, gets 2 or 3 fall-offs, put her back in her cage, and you're done. So hopefully they'll get over it. Usually they will. So stick with it for a little while. Hopefully it goes well. Katrina. See, I think they're talking about posting links only moderators. Oh, only moderators can post links. Okay, well, you can put the link in. I didn't know that. So thank you for informing me of that. You may be right about that. So if you want to post a link to another site, just take the www part off of it and just type it out the rest of the way. And people can copy that, paste it into their browser and put the www before it or whatever. You may have to leave the .com off the end of it or something like that. I don't know. But either way, that'll work. Should work. All right. John says, hello from Carroll, Iowa. Hatched out some of Zach's jumbo wild quail. Several are weighing at 9 ounces at 5 weeks old. Is that about average or over or underweight? That's a good question. It's probably a better question for Zach. I don't typically weigh my quail at all, much less at 5 weeks old, but 9 ounces at 5 weeks sounds like a pretty good weight to me. I want to say that that's probably above average for most quail at 5 weeks old. I got you, Vernon. Yeah, only moderators can post links in the chat. Others cannot. Okay, I got you. So I always wondered that. People talk about like posting a link or like sharing a link, and then but they don't. I always think, well, they're worried that I'm going to be upset with that. No, I don't care. You can post links if you want, but I guess you can't. So you can try a workaround, see if it works. I don't know. All right. Lamongi says, good evening. My quail finally started laying eggs after I started using light during the night. You were right. Took me a while to realize that the problem was the not so bright place. Thank you. Yo, you're absolutely welcome. That's almost always the issue. Yeah, light's almost always the issue when the quail aren't laying eggs, unless there's some kind of stress factor on them. But generally it's going to be light. All right, Toasted said odd. And by the way, I'm glad you got that figured out. I'm glad you got it fixed. So good. Toasted said odd. I found a tiny, maybe a kernel, I guess, but it was this ball-like flesh under it. What? Oh, we're talking about your quail that you had to call. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it probably got something in there and it got infected. I mean, it happens. I wish I had a better answer for you, but unfortunately, that's about it. Now, if you were to be able to get that out, I mean, that's what bumblefoot requires a lot of the time, especially if it gets infected like that. You're going to have to get the scab off or whatever it is, clean that wound out, get whatever it is in there. Maybe just looks like a ball of flesh, probably. Get that out of there and, treat that, clean it out real good, flush it out, treat it with some kind of antibiotic ointment. Don't use one with pain reliever in it. That's toxic. But any other antibiotic ointment is going to be fine. And, that'll usually take care of it. But it is a tough road because, I mean, they're walking in, dirt and stuff all day long. Even if you got them in wire cages, they're still walking in their own feces and stuff. And it's not the cleanest environment ever. So it's going to be tough to heal. James says, hey, this is my first year raising quail. Your videos have helped out a lot. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you for watching them. Bill says, hey, Chris, hope you had a good vacation. Just butchered some rabbits. Your tip on watering them down so their hair doesn't get everywhere is fantastic. Well, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I did have a good vacation. Thank you. Yeah, that's the best way to do it, in my opinion. Otherwise, you get hair all over the place. Now, when I was a kid, when we would process, we didn't raise rabbits, but we hunted. So, I'd hunt squirrel, I'd hunt rabbit, a lot of small game like that. And I never did water them down before I cleaned them off. We just processed them, just skinned them or whatever. And there was always hair stuck to the meat, but we had gas stove. So you just run it over the gas stove and singe that hair off. And it wasn't a big deal, but it's much easier. Just wet it down first to keep the hair from going everywhere. All right. Brady says, better than yesterday. Farms in Maine sends our love and prayers to you, Chris, and everyone there. Better than yesterday. Farms in Maine sends our love to. Okay, well, thank you very much. I had to read that again. Better than yesterday. Farms is what you're talking about. Okay, good. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I'm sure everybody else does too. Toasted says it didn't smell. Didn't see any yellow. Nothing like infection. Well, it could be something else too. I don't know. I don't know if there's a. I mean, it's very hard for me to tell because there could be so many different things. Oh, I read something wrong. It's Michelle, not Michael. I said Michael, didn't I? I get that. I read that name wrong all the time. I probably need new glasses. These are progressive lenses. I guess it's been a couple of years now, so I'm kind of getting used to them, and I can't really blame it on that anymore. But it's a strange thing. I feel old because I had to get bifocals and actually progressives, but they're the same difference. And there's still times where I'm not looking right. You may see me doing this, like tilting my head back because I'm trying to look through the bottom of the lens to see what I'm reading. I did know that, though. I think I've called you Michael before. I'm sorry. I got it wrong. So if it's any consolation, I've been called a woman before. I mean, I used to have long hair, believe it or not. I used to have hair down to about the middle of my back. And this, of course, this was when I was in my late teens, early 20s. And I remember distinctly one time I worked at Brahms fast food, and I was going in to mop the bathroom floor. No, I was going to the bathroom. I getting ready to go mop them, but I had to use the restroom first. And as I was walking into the bathroom, some woman behind me says, "That's the wrong one." I turned around and she goes, "Oh my gosh, I thought you were a girl." It's like, it was funny. But anyway, I'm sorry, I got your name wrong. S.O. Swanson says, Mark me tardy, but here from Memphis. Yeah, we don't keep attendance. You guys know that. But anyway, thanks for joining, tardy or not. Verna says, hey, cuz he doesn't keep attendance. Yep, you knew that already, Verna. Who's that? Drastics Hound from Texas. Good to see you guys. Natasha is probably how that's pronounced, isn't it? Or is it Natasha? I may be getting it wrong. I don't know. Says, hi from Atlantic, Canada. Just had a litter of New Zealand's. Think my doe got stressed out. Only 2 survived of 8 born yesterday. She usually has 9 to 13. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It could be a stress factor for sure. It could be, I don't know how old your doe is. If she's getting much older, like 5 years old or so, she may be starting to age out, but you can't really count that out by just one litter. Every once in a while, just a litter goes wrong for whatever reason. It's nothing to worry about necessarily. It's a frustration. It's a, definitely, definitely not something you're looking for. I mean, it's a, I can't think of the word. It's frustrating. It's less than ideal for sure, but chances are the next litter is going to be just fine. If you start having this on a consistent basis, it may be very well a sign that your doe is ready to retire and it's time to get a new doe. All right. Drastics Hound says, I just started processing meat rabbits and I'm looking for breeders. Any suggestions? Oh, I wish I did. Yeah, when I go to look for new rabbits, it's always a trick. I don't know what part of the country you're in. I know here there's some breeders on the other side of Springfield, Missouri, and there's some in Tulsa that have some pretty good ones. Look for, like American Rabbit Breeders Society or something, or check Craigslist, see what you can find. That's how I usually find most of my rabbits and my rabbit breeders. But those, I don't know any really well. I probably should get a list of them together. I just don't know. Owen says, hey, how you doing? I'm doing well, thank you. Hopefully you are too. Ed Gotbase says, wife fed the birds tonight, found one dead and not much left, and one with its back all torn up and healing. I've had a health issue for the last 3 weeks, so I personally can't check on them. Any ideas? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. First of all, about your health issue. Hopefully you're getting better. Secondly, about that issue. It sounds like a predator of some kind. Not much left. I don't know what your cage setup is like, but everything eats quail. So it's tough for me to figure it out. I've got a problem with a fox that comes around occasionally. And he's gotten a few of my quail recently. And he tends to just pull the legs off through the bottom of the hutch. But if the bird's laying on the wire, there's a good chance he could get to some of that too and eat away at it that way. Raccoons, will get them sometimes. I mean, there's a number of different things, but it definitely sounds like a predator issue, unless you ran out of food. And, if you let them go without food for very long, they'll start turning on each other. And if if they're without food for a while and they've had a bird that, they picked on enough that it did die, then they're going to start trying to eat it. So, that could be it, but that doesn't sound like it. It sounds like you've got a predator problem of some kind. Katrina says, how much space do you give your baby rabbits when they are growing out? Do you keep the litter separate from different cages or keep them together if you're going to harvest all of them? It depends, honestly. If I've got a rabbit that's producing, if the litters tend to grow out to 5 pounds by 8 weeks old, I tend to just leave them together. I mean, it's just such a quick time frame. I don't worry about separating them out and giving them separate cage space. Now, my current doe, her litters take closer to 12 weeks. So I typically move the babies off of her at about 6 weeks old. And then I separate them out, depending on how big the litter is. So if it's a litter of, 10, then I'll put 5 in each cage. And my cages are 36 by 30. That's the square or inches, 36 inches by 30 inches deep. So that kind of gives you an idea of how big it is. They don't need a ton of space. You're only growing them out for a short while. It's not, it's not that bad. But I do try to separate out the males and the females whenever I do separate them out. So I keep all the males together, all the females together. What else? But again, if they're like, if the babies are growing out to 8, to 5 pounds by 8 weeks, I don't bother separating them. I just put them all in the same cage or leave them with the mom even. All right. Barrel Racer says, okay, thank you. You are welcome. I don't remember what I answered for you, but you are welcome. Navarungus, I think it is, says, what do you think is better to keep, guinea pigs or rabbit? Probably rabbit. They're going to produce much higher rate. I mean, if you're looking for meat production, rabbit is the way to go for sure. If you can do both, there's no reason you can't do both. I've actually never eaten a guinea pig. I imagine it would be pretty good. I don't see why it wouldn't be. But my knowledge of guinea pigs is, and I think what you're talking about is like cavies, the bigger guinea pigs, is that they only produce like 1 or 2 babies at a time. And they will take care of them themselves. So they're low maintenance. You don't really have to do much. But they only produce like 1 or 2 at a time, and they take a long time to grow out. It doesn't, it's just, you're going to get a lot more out of a rabbit, let's put it that way. Tracy from Ohio, good to see you. Oh, I scrolled too far again. Hang on, I'll catch back up. There we go. Rapscallion says, Q, for how much would you sell live jumbo Coturnix quail? A lot of people want them for a barbecue. If you're talking about mature adult jumbo Coturnix quail, they go for about $5 a bird around here. If you were selling large quantities, I might give them a little bit of a discount on that, but about $5 is per bird is a good place to start. Grafted Branch Homestead says, what kind of supplemental light do you use for your quail? I use a solar light that is it's on a timer. It's one that I had built, tried to market. I just couldn't get the Kickstarters kicked off. I do have some people that prepaid because I did place an order, which hopefully will be in sometime soon. COVID really messed up the supply chain. Should have been here by now, but if you are one of those that has prepaid for it, I haven't forgotten. I'm still working on trying to get those in. But the light I use is a solar, it's basically a solar shed light, but it's set up on a timer instead of motion activated or, manually on and off. So, any kind of light's going to work. It doesn't have to be a super bright light, a certain spectrum or anything like that. Any light's going to work as long as it's about, bright enough to read by roughly. It should work just fine. For a long time, I used a solar light from Harbor Freight, their solar shed light. I think it was about a $20 light. And it's basically the same light I've got right now. It just came on, similar light, I should say, not the same, but it's similar. But it comes on automatically at dusk, and it just stays on until the battery runs down. So, on bright sunny days, that would be till, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, sometimes longer. Sometimes it's still on when I go out to feed at 6:30 or 7. Real dim at that point, but still on. But it worked. So, you can do something like that too. If you have electricity out to your hutches, then, timers are fairly cheap for electric lights, and you can just put a string of Christmas lights up or whatever, set them up on a timer to come on at a certain time and go off at a certain time. And you don't have to worry about it. Student Axel Jansen says, thanks so much. I love your videos. You have helped me so much for my rabbit farm. You are absolutely welcome. And thank you for watching the videos. I'm glad you find them helpful. Brady says the drill pluckers work pretty good. Well, good. I'm curious to see how it does. Katrina says, with multiple does, would you breed all relatively close together or spread them out? I have 3 does and 1 buck. Boy, that's a good question. And you can do it however you want to. I guess it depends. Do you want to have 30 some odd rabbits at one time that you're trying to take care of, make sure they're fed, all the feeds you're going to go through, all that kind of stuff? Or do you want to space them out to where you only have, 12 or 15 at a time, 20 maybe, at the most at one time. You're just going to have to think about that. That's a lot of feed. 30 rabbits is a whole lot of feed. When they start eating regular feed, you're going to be going through it pretty fast if you've got them all bred and all of them having babies at the same time. They all have big litters of 10 or more. Now, if you were to spread it out, breed 1 rabbit and then maybe 3 weeks later breed another rabbit, depending on how fast your babies grow out, your one rabbit's going to have a litter 1 week after the other one was bred, and then they'll be about almost 4 weeks old by the time that rabbit has her babies. And then you're looking at another 3 weeks. Those will be processed while the other ones are just now getting where they're starting to eat feed. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. It's hard for me to do all that in my head explain it, but I think you get what I'm trying to, hopefully you get what I'm saying. The other thing, though, about breeding close together is that if you breed them close together at the same time and they both have babies at the same time, if one of the rabbits, for whatever reason, doesn't want to take care of them, which is rare, but does happen, you'll have another mother rabbit that you might be able to foster, move the babies to her, and she might nurse and take care of them too. But I don't know that I'd really worry about that too much. It's pretty rare that you have a rabbit that doesn't take care of her babies. And if that happens, I call that rabbit and get a new rabbit and just chalk that litter up to a loss, unfortunately. Brady says, we got a plucker that does 2 chickens in 15 seconds. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, chickens, it makes sense. But quail, plucking a quail seems like a little bit of a difficult thing to me. But I don't know. Where are we at here? Let's move on to the next one. Toasted said, thanks for answering my last question. I have a few I keep as pets. They sit on my desk and play, and I love having them. I'd like to prevent the bumble infection death again. Are bird antibiotics okay? Yeah, they're okay. I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's a rare thing that you're going to have that big of an issue with it. So it's probably not going to be something you're going to have to face again. If it is something that's occurring time and time and time again, there's some kind of environmental issue you need to fix. And that's what I would look at. But, just one bird, I mean, who knows? Like I said, anything could have happened. But I wouldn't worry too much about it being a reoccurring issue. It's pretty rare that you're going to run into those issues. Rose says quail in a crock pot is always moist. I would be worried about it getting mushy in a crock pot, but I don't know. I haven't tried it in a crock pot, so maybe it would be great. Oh, and Verna says to Toasted for fresh, clean wounds. Yes, she's right. Yeah, I'm sorry. If you were asking about treating them with antibiotics on their wounds, yes, you could do that. You can treat them with antibiotics. You can treat them with, like I said, like a Neosporin type thing, like a triple antibiotic ointment. Just avoid ones that have pain relievers in them. But other than that, they're fine to use. Good evening to you, Snake. Good to see you. Where are we doing on time? We've got about 20 minutes left. We're doing good. Lorraine says, Chris, your hatching method is perfect. Thank you for posting the process. I got 85% hatch. Fantastic. Good job and congratulations on that. Glad that you found the videos helpful. Thank you for watching them. Let's see. Verna has got a method to cook. Slow cook quail in a crock pot covered with cream of mushroom soup concentrate. Yeah, that sounds pretty good too. Kind of a stroganoff, kind of the old go-to. Cream of mushroom soup in a crock pot with just about any meat is going to be good. All right. Verna says, Toasted, watch your birds closely. Are they on wire in an aviary? Good question. Oh, on deep pine shavings. That may be part of the issue there, honestly. I don't know how often you're cleaning those out. They should be okay on that, but, pine shavings can get pretty nasty pretty quick, and that may be causing some problems too. So maybe you have to change that out eventually or clean it out more frequently. Navarunga says, can you have pheasants with quails? I haven't kept pheasants, so I can't really speak to that. But interestingly enough, I did have somebody come by and pick up a couple of quail today, and they said they keep them with their pheasants. So I guess you can keep them with your pheasants. Try it out and see. Snake Jones says, my buck's name is Girth Brooks. Okay. I don't name my bucks or my does really, but hey, why not? Sounds like a good name to me. Carmen says, watching you from Southern Nevada. Is it Nevada? I always get that mixed up because we have a town here called Nevada. It's Nevada, isn't it? Yeah, the town is Nevada. The state is Nevada. Nevada, I think is how it's pronounced. Sorry, it sounds stupid, don't I? Don't know the name of the state, but I always get it mixed up. And just started beginning stages of planning my homestead. I want to have rabbits with the heat here. What breed would you recommend? Any tips for the heat here? Yeah, go for Tamux if you can. As far as the heat goes, it is a dry heat there, if I'm not mistaken. So you should be able to use things like swamp coolers and misters and those kinds of things to provide some relief. You don't want to spray it directly on your rabbits, but you want to spray like the hutch, and that evaporation will cool it down quite a bit. You can install fans if you need to, but honestly, if you just look for meat rabbits from your local area, chances are they're acclimated to the heat. They're not going to have as many problems with it. So you're probably going to be able to, like I said, Tamux are specifically bred for heat tolerance. So if you can find those, they're a type of New Zealand white, spelled Tamuk. It was a Texas A&M University breeding program that produced them, and they should do much better for you as well. But just check around. Anybody that's breeding rabbits in your area, I mean, if they're successfully breeding rabbits, talk to them about it. Chances are their rabbits are going to be fairly heat tolerant. You're going to do fine. All right. Whiskey Tango Farm says, if you have a doe that you suspect has a false pregnancy, pulling fur too soon, etc., should you mate her right away then, or should you wait until like day 30 to 32 when you realize she isn't having kids? I think I would wait. I mean, you could try to mate her again. Chances are she's not going to breed if she's pregnant. And my concern was she might get a little grumpy with the buck. They can do a lot of damage to a buck. So I think I might wait. You could try it, but if you do try it, watch her very closely. And if she starts growling or lunging at the buck or whatever, get her out of there, because chances are she's still pregnant. I think personally, I would wait, but I'm not terribly concerned about having the absolute most production I can get. So I'm a little bit more patient with those kinds of things. If you're looking for fast, super fast production, and it's a very important thing to her, then yeah, you can definitely try to go ahead and breed her again. Tommy says, thanks, Chris, for your valuable knowledge with quail. Tommy, Guntown, Mississippi. Well, you're absolutely welcome. And thank you for the kind comments, by the way. All right. Messenger of Messiah says, I cooked some quail this morning, rolled them in cornbread crumbs, and fried them in extra virgin olive oil. They were moist and delicious. Awesome. That sounds like a pretty good way to do it. Here we go. There's another comment about tenderizing quail. Rapscallion says, bam, kick it up a notch. Tenderized quail marinade overnight in freshly squeezed orange juice and black pepper. That makes sense. The acid in the orange juice is probably going to help break that down a little bit. When ready to cook, add melted butter and salt and use mesquite charcoal. Oh, that sounds pretty good too. Thank you for sharing your tips, guys. I appreciate that. I have done quail, the quail breast, for fajitas, like you would chicken fajitas, and with the fajita sauce on it and all that. And they're not really tough that way. They do stay a little bit more tender and a little bit more juicy, not quite as dry. So that makes sense. And I think probably, like you said, marinating them in orange juice, rapscallion, I think it was. That's a pretty good tip. Any kind of acid like that's going to help out quite a bit. Verna says, want to know what Zach's breeding? You want to know what Zach breeding? Go to My Shire Farm YouTube, look up playlists, look up the breeding program. There you go. Good suggestion on that too. I know I saw you posted a video. I haven't got a chance to watch it yet on their, what color quail was it that he was posting about? I can't remember now, but it was a new color phase that I wasn't real familiar with, so I may have to go watch that video too. All right, Will says, good evening, Chris. Just built an outside brooder. We'll post pics on the Facebook group soon. Awesome. Be good to see that. I know I'm not real active on Facebook, so forgive me, guys, if you're in the Facebook group and you don't ever see me post anything. I don't post anything to my regular feed very much either, and I very seldom respond to anything. I'm just not real active on social media. But I do see a lot of those posts, and I do try to look at them whenever I can. Toasted said, who had tried Prid? I hear good things about it. I have not tried it, so I can't say one way or the other. I don't see why it wouldn't work. Prid is, I believe, let me look it up real quick, make sure I'm not confusing it with something else. Yeah, drawing salve. Okay. Yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't work. That's a good suggestion. You might give that a try. Del Choo Choo says, hey, Chris, or hey, everyone. Chris, I'm going to try and incubate quail eggs with pigeons and finches. We'll try to document as much as possible. Yeah, if you can get them to sit on it, I don't know why that wouldn't work. I've heard of people incubating with silky chickens before. So interesting. We'll see how it works, huh? Sharon says, I have one doe that sit on two babies and pees and poops in the nest box. What would you do, or what to do? If that's a common thing, I'd get a new rabbit. That's what I would do. I don't know if there's a way to break her from doing that. Maybe give her a second, nest box that she can use as a litter box. If it's a huge issue, and if it's a continuing issue, though, I would just look at getting a new rabbit. But it's my solution to most things. I'm not breeding rabbits. Like, I don't produce huge amounts of rabbits for breeding stock and trying to develop the next best rabbit. I'm just producing meat for me and my family. So when I have a rabbit that's giving me problems, I typically, find a new home for them, or I cull them one way or the other. Well, finding a new home is a way of culling them. Or, I eat them, depending. If they're like super aggressive, then I just eat them. I don't give them to anybody. But, if they're a friendly rabbit, but they're having problems with breeding, low litter size, or, whatever, then I'll just try to find a new home, find somebody that wants a pet rabbit, and then get a new one. It may not be the best answer, the one you're looking for, but I don't know how to break a rabbit at doing that, and I just don't have the time to deal with it. So I just don't. I just get rid of them, get a new one. Rapscallion says, 9 of my quail couldn't figure out how to drink out of the water nipples and died. Oh my gosh. I'm now training them using the nipples from 2 weeks old. Yeah, it seems like they should be able to figure that out pretty quickly. Now, I don't use water nipples. I use little water cups, but it's the same kind of thing in the sense that there's not water held in those cups all the time. But what I do is I just go out, if I introduce older birds to these water cups, I go out and I'll push the plunger down and fill the cup with water, and they'll go drink from it. And do that once or twice, 2 or 3 days in a row, and they figured it out. They know how to use it. So I think you could probably do the same thing with the water nipples. If you can get them to pay attention, there's water coming at them, and tap them, and a little bit of droplets of water, they'll go to drink out of that. And then once they bump that a couple of times and water comes out, they should figure it out pretty quick. I think your idea of training them when they're young, though, is a good idea. And I usually find when I put younger birds in with older birds, they just figure it out by watching the older birds. Tuna Town says, hope all is well. Been away from the hobby for a while. Like, subscribe, peace. Thank you so much, Tuna Town. Everything is going well. There's no problems taking a break from the hobby for a while if you want to. You're always welcome back. Navarunga says, is sand better for quail than dirt to have as a dust bath? I don't know that it's any better. I don't see any reason why you couldn't use just dirt if you have dirt that's loose enough to use for a dust bath. I don't think there's any reason you shouldn't use that. I don't know if there's one better than the other. I think it's going to be fine either way. Verna says, thumbs up, people. Show Chris some love. Thank you very much, Verna. I appreciate that. Toasted, he's not talking to me, but he or she, I don't know who you are, but says he's talking to you. Now Varungus says, I mix sand, ash from my fireplace, a tiny bit of diatomaceous earth, and just a good old dry dirt, and they love it. Yeah, that would make sense. I would personally stay away from the diatomaceous earth. It has been known to cause respiratory issues and things like that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think, Toasted, you were the one that had the bird that had bumblefoot that you had to cull. That may be part of your issue right there. It may be tearing up their feet a little bit, and that may be why they're having problems, or why you had one bird that got an infection. I'd stay away from the diatomaceous earth myself, but if you want to keep using it, go ahead. There's nothing wrong with that. Verna says, if you're using dirt, you have to put it in the oven and sterilize it. Well, I mean, that's probably good. You don't have to do that necessarily, but you're right, Verna. That's probably best practice. Put it in there to kill any kind of parasites or anything like that out of it. I don't know that I'd worry about it too much. There's plenty of people that keep quail on the ground, and you're not sterilizing the ground, so I don't think it's that big of an issue. Katrina says, we added sand to the sandbox yesterday by pouring it in. A couple quail decided to take the sand showers. So my very friend started to pour it over the other ones in the sandbox, and they were in heaven. Yeah, they love a good dust bath, sand bath, whatever. They love it. Yeah, it's definitely, if you don't have a sand bath in there now or a sandbox and you put one in, boy, they're just going to flock to it. And the best part is, too, if you have a sandbox in there permanently, they lay most of their eggs in the sandbox, and their eggs are super clean when they're laid in the sand. Jasmine's laughing about that. Raining sand. Yeah. Jake says, currently working third at my cleaning job. Okay. Currently working third at my cleaning job. I was wondering if you have had many experiences with losing quail. Makes me feel like I am a bad owner. Happy you're doing well. Your videos are awesome. I've had a few experiences with losing quail. Yeah. I mean, it happens from time to time. I don't know how many you're losing. I've had an issue with second hutch. I had separated out of the last hatch I had. I separated out several of them I was going to use as future breeders, and I've lost half of them probably. And it seems like the fox is coming around and getting them. If you're losing birds on a regular basis and there's no obvious sign, like no obvious injury or anything like that, and I'm saying a regular basis, like, one a day or one every 2 days or something like that, then I would be concerned that there's some kind of illness going on. And I would make sure you isolate those birds from the rest of the, if you have 2 different hutches and you're losing them in one hutch, make sure they stay separate. Don't mix them together. That makes me concerned about some kind of illness or disease or something like that going on. But if it's just one every once in a while, it just happens sometimes. There's nothing you can really you're not doing anything wrong necessarily. It just happens. It's not much you can do about it. PJ says, have your quails stopped laying yet? No, not yet. They're slowing down a little bit, but they have not stopped laying yet. Navarunga says, how long do rabbits live? They live until they die. That's how, but I think you're looking for a more specific answer than that. They live, it depends on the breeds. Your standard meat breeds, your New Zealand whites, your Californias, those standard, Rexes, standard Rex, I should say. Those are going to live probably, 8-9 years, something like that. But they're really only productive, especially the does. The does are really only productive for about 5 to 6 years at the most. That's probably pushing it, honestly, 6 years. You're probably going to get 4 to 5 years out of them as good production. Bucks can go a little bit longer than that. They can go up to about 6 to 7 years, something like that. But really, you're looking at probably having to replace them if you want production out of them. You're not just going to want to keep them until they die. Every 5 years or so, something like that. All right. Katrina says, general question. A California has New Zealand in it. If you breed a California and a New Zealand and get a baby that looks like a California, is it considered a purebred? No, it's not considered a purebred. You would have to breed them for, I don't know, several generations before you bred out the New Zealand California. That's a genetics question that's hard for me to answer, but no, it wouldn't be considered a purebred at that point. Jasmine says, how old is too old for breeders? For breeder does, New Zealand, California, Rex, and Silver Fox are the breeds I have. I think I just answered that one for you in the other question, but I don't really keep track of the age and say, oh, they're too old to breed right now. What I do is I breed my rabbit until she starts having problems. So she has a failed litter, and then the next litter is, really small, or that I stop breeding her at that point if she's an older rabbit. Now, if she's a younger rabbit, I'll go ahead and continue to breed and try to work through those issues. But if she's over 4 or 5 years old and she starts having those problems on a consistent basis, then I stop breeding her, consider her retired, find a place for her to go to, somebody that wants her as a pet or something like that. Grafted Branch Homestead says, do you have chickens? Not right at the moment. We do a run of meat chickens every spring, but no, I don't keep chickens on a regular basis. Snake Jones says, wow, my cages are huge then. I don't know what you're referring to, but there's nothing wrong with a big cage. If you want to have a great big cage, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Joey says, how much pellets in grams do you feed your rabbits on a daily basis? I don't know the grams because I just don't measure it out in grams. Feed them about as much as they'll eat in 24 hours. That's somewhere around 8 ounces. So if you want to do that 8 ounces to grams measurement, that's kind of a good starting place. But, if you give your rabbit 8 ounces of feed, and then you come back the next morning, when you put that feed in, they just dive in head first like they're starving, give them a little more, maybe another ounce more. And then, if there's pellets left over, give them just a little bit less. And you'll find a sweet spot there pretty quick. My rabbits do tend to start to eat more as we move into winter. So there for a while, especially my doe, in the heat of summer, she was, I've got a little cup out there. It's about an 8 ounce cup, and she was eating 3/4 of that a day. And now she's up to a full cup. She's eating a full cup in 24 hours. So just, however much they'll eat in 24 hours, that's the best answer, really. Oh my gosh, we got a lot of chats. I don't know if we're going to get through them all. Holy cow, it's been busy. How are we doing on time? Oh, we got 5 minutes left. I'm sorry if I'm not going to get to your chat. Let's see how many we can get through in the next 5 minutes. Jesse says, a good way to find a good stock for meat breeders would be to go to a rabbit show. That is a good suggestion. A lot of breeders will sell the babies that don't make standards cheap as calls, not show quality, but still good for meat breeders. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good suggestion. State farms are another good place. Poultry swaps, those are all good places. Poultry swaps, though, you get some backyard breeders that, you just don't know. So that may not be the best place, but, check them out. Who knows? Snake Jones, is feeding your rabbits cannabis sativa unethical? I have no idea what that is exactly. Cannabis I know, but I don't know if it's unethical or not. I haven't studied it at all, so I don't know that I can answer that one. Mooney says, sir, I'm from Indiana. Recently, I got quail, and all are fine with your videos help, but my main problem is feed. Any suggestions to make your own feed? Remaining fine. Thanks for helping. Love from India. I think I read that as Indiana first, but no, India. Unfortunately, I don't have any information on making your own feed. I've kind of looked into it a few times, and it's just, incredibly complex. They have a varied diet. Quail are omnivores, so they need both animal protein like insects and things, and vegetable protein like grains and nuts and seeds and those kinds of things. And to mix that all together in the right proportion, I just don't know what that is. So I'm sorry I can't answer that for you. As far as feed remaining fine, feed will keep for an extremely long time. As long as you can keep mice and things like that out of it, and keep it dry, it should keep for a good long time. So I don't know that that's something to worry about. If you're having a hard time finding quail feed, you might look for a turkey starter, or even a chicken starter is going to work just fine. Those are things that you might be able to feed to them. Hopefully that answers that. I hope you find what you're looking for there. Paleo says, I had the exact same predator problem. What I did was put a sliding tray under the hardware cloth to keep the predators from trying to grab at the legs of my quail. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Or even just another row of wire underneath there so the droppings still all fall through would keep the predators from getting up through the bottom of the cage to them. All right, Grafted Brain says, do you need approval to sell birds for meat? I think it depends. I'm probably not the best source of information for that. I think you do need some kind of permit if you're going to sell them for human consumption. But I think it depends on what quantities you're selling them into. I really don't know. You're going to have to look that up, and it probably is a little bit different for everybody's area. So you're going to have to probably look that up, check with FDA or something like that. You said, do you need FDA approval? I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that one. Snake Jones says, or Toasted says, 19. Oh, sorry. Fan leaves can actually be beneficial for some things. Avoid sugar leaves. What's a fan? What do you mean by fan leaf? Everything in moderation, though. I don't know what fan leaves are. I don't know what you mean by fan leaves. Sorry. And it says no sugar leaves because of the THC. Is there THC and sugar? I'm going to let you guys talk that one out because we're running short on time. PJ Homestead says, are you going to try to pluck your quail? I'm not going to try to pluck mine. No, I'd probably not. Who knows? Maybe I'll change my mind someday and try it, but at this point, I don't. Rapscallion says, happy rabbits. Okay. Happy rabbits. Sure. Eamon, I think it is. Hi, Redneck. What is the best combination for quails to get fertile eggs for the incubator? I think you're asking about how many roosters do you need for hens? One rooster for every 4 to 5 hens. Somewhere right around in there is a good one. You don't want to go much lower than that because you'll end with hens getting overbred, and they'll get all their feathers out of the back of their head plucked out. If you go much higher than that, then it's hard for the rooster to service all of them, and you end up with lower fertility. But one rooster, 4 to 5 hens, that's a good ratio. Hopefully that was your question. All right. Donna says, I hope it's okay. I named my redneck quail slightly red. Yeah, it's fine. Name them whatever you want. If you want to name them after me, that's fine. I'm not offended by that at all. Eamon says, and do they need any special feed or cage setup for natural incubations? And do you have any tips? Yeah, natural incubation, you mean the birds incubating their own eggs? That's pretty rare. I did talk to somebody. I've talked to people that have had it happen. They all seem to have one thing in common: great big area for the birds. They're not, have a lot of room, and that seems to help them get a little bit, go broody, feel a little more secure, I guess. But no, I don't have any great tips for how to get them to naturally incubate their own eggs. It hasn't happened with my birds. Special feed, they do need you're probably best trying to get a commercial feed for them, a commercial pre-made feed. Somewhere over 20% protein. I like to 30%, but if you can get over 20%, they should do okay. So a chicken feed, a turkey feed, a quail, a game bird feed, something like that that's made by a feed mill is going to be your best bet on that. And as far as cage setup goes, they're ground-dwelling birds. There's nothing really special about the cage setup. Just something that'll keep them secure, keep predators off of them. That's really about it. Snake Jones says, I'm told that cannabis up until prohibition was a staple animal feed crop, making cannabis bioavailable to men through the meat. Huh. Okay. I don't know anything about that, so I'm sorry. Can't answer that one for you. All right, we are just right out of time. I'll get one or two more answered. Toasted says, if everyone could get some bedding suggestions, that would also be amazing. I just like to see what people use other than wire and ground. Good question. I'll let other people answer that. There's lots of things you could use. Stay away from cedar. Cedar dust can be really problematic for birds. Your pine shavings are probably okay too. Shredded newspaper would be okay. There's lots of different things you could use. Straw is another suggestion. Rapscallion says, question, for how much would you sell 300 jumbo Coturnix? Someone asked me when I posted a Craigslist ad for 6 extra quail I had. I guess I'm in the business. Yeah, 300, that's a lot. Depends on how old they want to buy them. Normally if you're selling day-old birds, around here they go for about $1 a bird at day old. Once they hit about a week old, they go for, about $1 per bird until they're about a week old. Over that, till they're 2 weeks old, is about $2 a bird. 3 weeks old is about $3 a bird. 4 weeks old, $4 a bird. 5 weeks old, $5 a bird. And that's about where they cap out. So I guess it would depend on how old the birds were as to how much I would sell them for. I don't know if that answers your question, but it gives you hopefully something to kind of think about. Snake Jones says straw and newspaper and linen scraps. Yeah, I wouldn't use just newspaper, just flat newspaper. It's a little bit slick. It might run into some leg problems, but shredded up, it would probably work just fine. All right. I think we're going to stop right there. We got a whole bunch of comments coming in, so I'm sorry if I did not get to your comment tonight. I really am trying to convince myself to work in, try to figure out a way. I'm trying to work on a way, I guess I should say. I can get back to answering comments on videos again a little bit better than I have, and I've been terrible about it lately. It just got kind of out of the process of doing it, and it just never seems to be a convenient time to sit down and do it, but I am trying. So I see all the comments that come in, and a lot of times I use those for video topics. So, feel free to leave comments on videos. I'll do my best to get them answered one way or the other. Try to, most of the time. So, all right, I'm going to wrap it up. My wife just got home from work. She's been working some late shifts, so she's home before 10 o'clock tonight. I need to go spend some time with her, or I want to, I should say. So thanks for joining me tonight, guys. God bless each and every one of you, and we will see you guys again next week. I hope, if nothing comes up, we'll see you next week. So again, God bless. Good night. We'll see you later.